So it is time to take a look at the Centauro, which is a tank shore with wheels, a very interesting combination. Now the Centauro is probably the best vehicle of this platoon. It has a 105mm main gun. It is very fast, 110 km/h, reverse is 22 km/h. It has 17 horsepower per ton, weighs 30 tons. For crew member, 400mm of average penetration. This thing has a DM33 APFSDS, which is, you know, very nice ammo. Reload 6.7 seconds, and the rotation is 23 degrees per second. Now the armor on this thing is very odd. It is one of the tanks where no armor is best armor. So I was surprised at how many shells I took with this thing, because apparently no armor, as I mentioned before, is best armor. And this thing also has explosive reactive armor, so it does have some decent protection, although in top tier you should not really rely on the armor, but you should rely on the speed and maneuverability of this thing. Now this is a tank destroyer, which does kind of look like a boat, to be honest. Has that design like a... I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. It does look like a boat. So yeah, but it's a very interesting tank, and overall very powerful main gun. And overall, the way how you play this, I actually started to play this as the STRV. It does kind of feel very similar, with the big difference being that, you know, this has a turret and it can move around, but the wheels are okay. It does feel more maneuverable and responsive than the other wheeled vehicles that we have. So when it comes to maneuverability, it is not bad at all. It gets the job done really well. I also like how there's a huge wheel at the back of the hull. A very nice attention to detail there. Now this, as I mentioned, has DM33 APFSDS, which, as we all know, is one of the better ammo types that we can have in the tier. Also does have, it has 2 APFSDS ammo. I'm using the M33, which supposedly is the better one. But the damage that this thing is doing is very good. Excellent penetration, excellent maneuverability, and, as I mentioned before, surprising survivability. Now of course, it has no armor, and high explosive shells will kill this tank very easily. So if you're being shot by high explosive, yeah, you will have a bad day. But if you are being shot by APFSDS, HEATFS and stuff like that, you should be good. Of course, if the enemy is missing the vital part of the tank, which is the ammo. Basically, if you don't carry a lot of ammo, this thing can be a bullet sponge, meaning that you can take hits without actually taking damage. However, doesn't really come without its own problems. This gun is stabilized. It has a stabilizer the same way that the VCC is also stabilized, but for some reason the wheels are just bouncy, very bouncy, and the stabilization can't keep up with that. And the gun will, when you're moving, the gun is stable, but the second you stop, the gun does weird stuff. It does go up and down, does funny things with the aim. So not really a fan of that happening, but I can overlook that, and honestly I can get used to that. Basically, you should be using this as a tank destroyer, since it is a tank destroyer. Its purpose is to destroy tanks. It's a very good sniper. It's an excellent sniper. So basically, hold position and snipe enemy tanks. Of course, problem will occur when the gun starts to wobble, when you start to move just a little bit, and then the tank stops. That's the biggest drawback, is basically the wobbliness of the main gun. The main gun being going up and down when you move, even slightly. So that's, I guess, my only real complaint on the Centauro. I love the name, by the way. Centauro looks kind of scary. Does sound kind of menacing and does sound scary. The accuracy of the main gun is pinpoint, so the main gun is definitely not going to miss the position where you're aiming at. When it comes to survivability, the turrets can tank hits. Again, I'm very surprised by how many hits this thing can take. I think I also seen something in the patch notes saying that these things have like kinetic protection, armor designed to withstand kinetic shells like AP shells, which is interesting. It also does have these little blocks, which also help. There we go. Aircraft shot down. But for the most part, I'm very happy with the Centauro so far. One thing that it's lacking besides stabilization, it also does lack gun depression. Same way the VCC lacks gun depression as well. It can raise the gun all the way to the moon, but it can't lower the gun because it's a tall vehicle. A tall vehicle with a relatively flat turret, and of course has wheels. So the whole structure and construction and design of the vehicle is different and not really suitable for hull down. I mean, you can technically do hull down with this, technically, but you can't really do a lot since you can't lower the gun that well. And yes, I was about to get bombed. Yeah, there we go. See that? Did you see that? Oh, I'm always getting bombed. All the time. The frontal slope is well angled, so it will bounce shells. Well, I mean, I say will bounce shells. I did bounce shells with this thing. It's the same way the STRV works, but in a much less, not the same way the STRV of course does work, but defeating shells with angle is working. But at the same time, I'm not really relying on armor. Obviously not going to rely on armor in high team, because that's just bad news. And I am on 6 kills. Now with this tank destroyer, with this real tank destroyer, did you see how did you see that? I would have killed the ZTZ if only this tank wasn't as wobbly as it was. But you can carry the match with this tank really easily. It is well capable of doing that. It doesn't have a fast reload as the VCC of course, but has a much more powerful gun and has much better ammo as well. So, and that shell went straight through my whole tank there. But yeah, with this vehicle you can carry the game, you can carry the match easily. Now time for me to fall back and repair this thing. Carrying the match with the Centauro might be quite fun, to be honest. And just in time I can repair while my bomber is up in the sky. Of course. I love how every time I pick the bomber, the whole enemy team is always ready to use the fighter, but when the enemy is using a bomber, my team never touches the fighter at all. And that's been the case for like more than 3 months now. I haven't had a teammate launch fighters at all. Oh look, another Centauro. And that was a very nasty hit. That was a very nasty hit in the back of the turret, right in the ammo. Now the ammo in this vehicle is stored in the back of the turret, as we have just seen. And the ammo is also stored in the back of the hull of the vehicle. So that's usually where you want to aim when you want to kill a Centauro. But your best solution to did you see? I love how how wobbly this thing is, and I missed it. Beautiful. Yeah, I would have killed that tank if only this thing wasn't as wobbly as it is. And I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of stabilization, to be honest. Stabilization should stabilize your gun, and it should compensate for the wobbliness as well. But apparently, it doesn't do that when it needs to. So yeah, unfortunately, could have had 8 kills, but yeah, it's just how it is. A good match regardless. A good match regardless. This thing took more hits than a average main battle tank, which is kind of funny. Since the average main battle tank has a much better armor. It has much better armor thickness than this thing. But this thing just takes much more hits. So, yeah. Okay, let's go to the next match. Now, this map would have been really good for this vehicle if it had a good gun oppression, but it doesn't have that, so I go where I usually go with the STRV. I go in the open, which isn't exactly... this map isn't really the best map for this vehicle, to be honest. Mostly because there is no cover, and you can't really use any hold down position. So your best bet here is to shoot before the enemy shoots you. And well, that was a crazy angle, and it still penetrated. There's a ZTZ. Okay. The best way how to angle this, well, I mean, it's a wheeled vehicle. Your escape is going forward, so this is basically how I usually position myself. Not the best position, obviously, but it has to do for now. I mean, there is no other way how to drive this. And ammunition explodes. That went through the composite armor like no big deal. Next, T-55. Well, something happened with the T-55, I have no idea what. The main gun on this thing is like the best thing about it. If the maps were much larger, and if you actually had positions where you can hide, this would have been a fantastic... I mean, this vehicle in an open field, if you just have a little bit of cover, just to hide a little bit, would be much better. But for what it is, it's doing the job just fine, so... Oh look, ZTZ-88A. And ZTZ destroyed. I mean, this shell just goes through armors like a hot knife through butter, so don't be surprised, since this does have a... This has a lot of penetration, so don't be surprised by how much damage it does. It is a very fun shell to use. I have to check out the Leopard. I think the Leopard also received DM-33. If that's the case, well, Leopard is going to be a very nice little tank as well. But yeah, this has DM-33, and that shell is the shell that we have been waiting for a while. It's a shell that should have... that shell should have been released with like 1A5, but they released it with tier 9. And that's a very nice kill as well. It does offer some protection against machine artillery, sometimes against machine fire from an aircraft. That's a good thing, I guess. It's not completely paper and a cardboard box. I mean, this is probably one of the most weird vehicles that I've had the chance to use, honestly. It is definitely very odd to use the Centauro. I called Centurion before, my apologies for that. Centauro is the name. Now the speed of 110 km/h, I think you can actually go more than that. That's like the average top speed. I think you can hit like 130 km/h with this thing, which is a very fast. This thing is fast. Let's be real, this thing is fast, but it uses wheels, and I'm not really a big fan of wheeled vehicles because of the controls. The controls are very odd sometimes and unresponsive, but this thing just gets the job done. If fuel exploded. Of course, ATGMs are one of your main enemies. You definitely do not want to get hit by missiles, rockets or bombs. And I can bet that bomber is doing a U-turn right at my position. That's why I'm moving around. Let's see if some bombs start to drop from the sky. Well, surprisingly no bombs, okay. I haven't checked if this thing can swim. Most of the wheeled vehicles are amphibic, and this thing does kind of look like a boat, so I would assume that this thing can swim. So that's one thing I have to check out with the Centauro. Can this thing actually swim? I haven't done that, haven't entered any watery premise with this vehicle so far, but I'll definitely attempt to do that at one point. Will be funny if the tank just drowns. And let's go to the next match. Here you can take a look at the ammo that you have here. I'm just using APFS. I'm using DM33 APFSDS on this thing because why not? Now you can use both APFSDS ammo types if you like, but it is nice to have some high explosive as well alongside APFSDS. High explosive against light armor vehicles is very nice. This is a 105mm main gun, don't forget that. Relatively, well, not a large cannon, but you know, it gets the job done when it hits something. And that's a hit. Something went right in my aim there, so wasn't really aiming properly. ZTZ 88A straight through the frontal plate, but the tank will move into cover. Now let's see, this position is really good for this thing. Moving forward or backward is actually also quite solid. The speed allows you to do that, not the fastest acceleration though, but it's honestly fairly fast, can't complain about the speed. The only thing I can complain about is the wobbliness and the fact that it doesn't really... See, now the stabilization seems to work. Now the stabilization seems to work, but when I actually need it to work, it doesn't work. Funny how that is. This is also a relatively large vehicle. When you look at the size, it's actually a fairly big tank. And now let me... yeah, I think I'll just go back into my old position there. Yeah, let's just go back. Should go in reverse fairly fast. Not going to turn my back towards them since that's a very easy way for me to get ammo racked. The ZTZ destroyed. This thing just likes to blow up ammos. This thing has a very... and the AMX-30. And they bounced. They actually bounced me. Let's aim for the ammo. There we go. Ammunition at the back of the turret exploded. I could continue moving backwards and climb. You can climb stuff with this, which is a very nice little advantage that I guess you have over tracked vehicles. You can climb stuff. And getting stuck is less of a problem, ironically. At the same time, getting stuck can also be very easy since you can't really turn the same way a tank turns. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most, I guess, about these wheeled vehicles is the controls. Because sometimes when you want to turn, it doesn't want to turn. Even though you're turning, it doesn't want to turn because you're not giving it enough gas. So it's kind of funny. The controls kind of need to be reworked around that, I would say. Mostly because in some cases when you turn and move, the tank doesn't turn and doesn't move, even though it should. And that is one of the reasons why the tank just blows up, and the reason why you get destroyed in battle. So that's one thing that kind of needs to be solved. And what do we have there? And the braking. Yeah, the braking is funny. Sometimes it doesn't brake. It doesn't want to slow down sometimes. But that main gun is nasty. Let me tell you, this main gun is evil. I love the main gun on this thing. It is really good. A very solid main gun. But that's to be expected from DM33. And we seem to be winning the match, so let me quickly just, let me see if I can bomb a tank or two, and then the match will end. So, my thoughts about the Centauro. I actually like this thing a lot. Probably will become one of my favorite tanks in the game, but this tank is definitely worth to get, and this platoon is definitely really solid because of the Centauro. It is a very interesting tank, very powerful main gun, and overall very happy with the performance of this thing. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe, and with that being said, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.